Hello, thank you for being here today. My name is Caitlin. Would you like to go on a date with me? Too bad, because we're all currently on lockdown and we're supposed to be staying at home. But, okay, normal voice, that doesn't mean that the date night can't still happen. So today I'm going to show you 2 vegan recipes that, in my opinion, can qualify for date night recipes. These are still relatively simple recipes, but they're made from more indulgent or delicious ingredients. Basically, we're going to be making a restaurant quality meal at home, and it's gonna be delicious and vegan, and I know you can do it. I believe in you. So whether you want to have a date night with just yourself, with a significant other, with a virtual friend, maybe cook together, that'd be really cute. Let's get into it. First up, we're going to be making some vegan pesto risotto with some roasted cherry tomatoes. We'll start with the roasted cherry tomatoes. You can also use grape tomatoes or sliced tomatoes as well. I just thought these looked pretty with the vine on. Basically, I'm just putting them on a baking tray and then drizzling them with some extra virgin olive oil and then giving them a generous pinch of salt. You could also add some black pepper if you would like, and we're just going to roast these in the oven while we bake our risotto. So a key component to making risotto is to have warm vegetable broth to add to our risotto. And so here I'm just adding some broth to a pot, and then I'm actually infusing it with some pesto. So we're going to be adding some pesto at 2 points in this recipe. This is my vegan nut-free pesto. I'm featuring this recipe in a separate video actually, but the recipe is on my blog. I'll have it linked below. But right now I'm just whisking it into the vegetable broth. So then this way, when we're incrementally adding our vegetable broth to our risotto, we're going to be infusing it with our yummy, vibrant, basil-infused pesto. So now onto the risotto. I am warming up some olive oil in a large pan. You definitely want to make sure you have a large pan for this recipe. Once it's warm, we're going to add some shallot and saute that for a few minutes until it becomes nice and translucent and fragrant. And then at this point, we're going to add our arborio rice and toast it for a few minutes in the pan. So arborio rice is a specific starchy rice that is key for making risotto. So we're going to toast it for a few minutes until it becomes a little bit more golden and translucent. And this just adds a subtle nutty flavor to our final dish. Now at this point, we're going to deglaze our pan with some white wine and mix that in. If you don't cook with wine, you can also just use vegetable broth, but personally I like the depth of flavor that it adds to the recipe. So now at this point, we're going to start adding our warm vegetable broth to our risotto. And we're looking for a movement called l'onda. That's really bad Italian, but it's Italian for the wave. So the way the risotto is going to work is when you drag your spoon through it, you should get a clean line and the risotto should roll back towards you. You can kind of start to see it here, but you're not going to fully see it until the dish is completed. Basically, we're going to be adding vegetable broth in small increments to our risotto, stirring it in and keeping everything at a low simmer. And then once the vegetable broth is absorbed and you drag your spoon through the risotto and you get a clean line, that's when you know to add more. So risotto is more of a hands-on recipe. You definitely need to be paying attention. As you can see here, like there's the clean line I'm talking about. So now I know it's time to add more vegetable broth, but the end result of the creamy risotto is worth it. Personally, I think that oven risottos or Instant Pot risottos, you're not really getting the same creamy effect from the starchiness of the rice. So for me, if it's for a date night, I'm gonna go the extra mile to cook my risotto. You wanna start taste testing the risotto at about the 12 to 15 minute mark for doneness. And the texture of the arborio rice will still have a little bit of an al dente bite, but it will still be, tender enough to eat. So once you get to that point, we're going to add in our shredded Parmesan cheese and our second dose of our vegan nut-free pesto. This is also because pesto loses its vibrance once you cook it a little bit. So here you can see our risotto turned a nice bright green color because as the basil cooks, it sort of gets less bright green. And then at around this time, your tomatoes should be done roasting. They should be nice and golden brown. And now all that's left to do is serve. So you can add your risotto to a plate, top it with your roasted tomatoes. And here I'm topping it with some extra fresh basil and being finicky with my herb placement. And then I'm also adding a little bit of extra virgin olive oil as a drizzle on top. But you can serve it however you would like. If you want to, you can also serve this with some tempeh or tofu, but I think this makes the perfect creamy, indulgent meal that's perfect year round. It's cozy enough for the winter time, but it's fresh enough in the summertime too because of the basil. Next up, we're going to be making vegan cacio pepe with garlicky mushrooms. Cacio pepe is a classic Italian dish that is actually considered to be pretty humble, but I think it tastes absolutely delicious and can totally qualify as a date night recipe. So we're going to start by slicing some garlic for our garlicky mushrooms. I'm giving you an option here. Personally, I decided to thinly slice my garlic because I like the extra hit of a sliced garlic clove, but you can also mince it if you prefer it to be more evenly distributed. And then here, we're also going to be using some vegan Parmesan cheese. I prefer to use the block of Parmesan cheese, and you want to grate it using a box grater or a similar grater on one of the finer settings, because this Parmesan is going to be added to our pasta sauce later, and we want it to melt into the broth as quickly as possible. So you're looking for some fine, fluffy shreds of vegan Parmesan similar to this texture. So that's the main prep for this recipe. So now we can go ahead and get into it. We're going to start by making our garlicky mushrooms first so we can make this all in one pot. So I melted some vegan butter into a skillet, and then I'm adding my sliced mushrooms. I kept my mushrooms pretty large because I want them to have a nice meaty bite when I bite into them. And I am using chanterelle mushrooms, which are typically harder to find, but I live in the Pacific Northwest, so they're easier for me to find at this time of year. They have a really nice buttery texture to them, but this recipe will also totally work with oyster mushrooms or cremini mushrooms. So we're going to saute those for about 3 to 5 minutes, and then for the last, I'd say 2 to 3 minutes, you're going to add in your garlic cloves, and the garlic's going to fry up in that vegan butter and infuse into our mushrooms and get nice and delicious. So now moving on to our pasta, we're going to start by bringing a large pot of water to a boil. Make sure you salt your pasta water, and then you can add in your pasta of choice. I'm using gluten-free spaghetti here. Typically cacio e pepe is made with longer noodles, but you can also use shorter varieties. And you're going to cook the pasta to just before al dente. So look at your package instructions. You're going to be sauteing it a little bit further in our sauce. So you just want to make sure you don't overcook it and that it becomes totally mushy. So you can sort of do a little taste test, make sure that the pasta is good, or see if you need to cook it longer. And before you drain your pasta, we're going to take out some of the starchy pasta water because we're going to be using this later to thicken our sauce. So I went ahead, transported that off to the side, and now I'm going to drain my pasta and set it aside while I make my sauce. So we're going to melt some vegan butter in a skillet, and then we're going to add in our peppercorns. I recommend using Telecherry peppercorns. It is a larger peppercorn that has more flavor than heat, so it won't be overly spicy if you are sensitive to spice. And a key to this recipe is also using freshly ground peppercorns, because once the pepper is pre-ground, it loses some of those flavor notes. So if you do have a pepper grinder, that really is key for this recipe. You can use as much or as little as you like. I recommend using at least a teaspoon. Personally, I could even go up to like 2 teaspoons of pepper. We really love black pepper around here. So once your butter is melted, you're going to add your black pepper to the pan, and you're going to saute it for about 60 seconds. And this blooms the peppercorn, so it enhances some of the flavor and also infuses the butter with that flavor as well. So then we're going to add some of our pasta water. I'm starting with 3/4 of a cup to the pan, and you're going to let it reduce for a few minutes just to thicken it up. Then at this point, we can add our drained pasta to the pan along with our final tablespoon of butter. Then you're going to use tongs to sort of toss the pasta in the butter until the butter melts. And all the meanwhile, your pasta is also getting infused with black pepper and that starchy sauce. Then last but certainly not least, we're going to sprinkle in our vegan Parmesan cheese and just use tongs to sort of toss the pasta. As you can see, we're making a sort of thick sauce here, and you really want every noodle to be coated. So as you can see here, my sauce isn't fully melted. The cheese is still a little chunky, so now I'm going to add in that extra pasta water, about 1 to 2 tablespoons at a time, to toss the pasta until I get my desired sauce. As you can see here, this is kind of what you're looking for. So it'll have a slightly glossy sauce, and then now it's time to serve it up. So I just found this out, but apparently if you use a soup ladle and then you use your tongs to twist the pasta in the soup ladle, that is how you get fancy pasta swirls. Personally, I am really, really terrible at plating pasta. So this was my first attempt, but I definitely thought it looked better than just plopping the pasta on the plate. You can tell me or not tell me in the comments below. I'm definitely still not perfect at my swirls, but it looked better anyways. Okay, put your pasta on the plate, and then we're going to top it with those garlicky, buttery mushrooms that we set aside. I just spent a little extra time sort of styling my plate here, but you do what works for you. We definitely don't need to get as artsy here. As long as it tastes good, that's what matters most. And then I just topped my pasta with a little extra freshly ground black pepper, and you can dig in, serve, and enjoy. I love this pasta. I think the mushrooms add an extra like heartiness to the dish. It would still be good without them too, but I'm a huge fan of mushrooms, so I recommend using them in this recipe. You can serve it with some wine, dig in, have a great date night. You do you. All right, friends, that's it for the recipe. So leave a comment down below and tell me what your ideal date night recipe would be. It doesn't have to be one of these, but it could be. And also, these full recipes will be linked in the description of this video if you want to make them or save them for later via Pinterest, or just check out my blog because I have a ton of other date night worthy recipes here. Personally, Valentine's Day is coming up. I'm gonna be celebrating it by myself because my fiance got a job that requires him to travel a lot. So I'll probably just make one of these for myself, have a nice glass of wine, maybe draw myself a bubble bath. So it's okay to date yourself, celebrate yourself. I don't know. Whether you're celebrating Valentine's Day or Singles Appreciation Day, or you come on this video on another time of year, there's nothing wrong with treating yourselves to some delicious vegan food. So I hope you check these recipes out. Hope you love them and enjoy them. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Please like, comment, subscribe. You guys know the drill. Check out my cookbook, Simply Delicious Vegan. Stay awesome. Keep shining. I don't know. You guys get it. Okay, I'll talk to you later. Bye.